Cybersecurity. Let's talk about that a little bit. Cybersecurity is something that used to be really only discussed by IT people. I mean, the rest of us knew about it, but didn't think about it all that much, or take it seriously, maybe is what I should say, until over the past, what, 5, 6, 7 years or so, there have been major cyber attacks on large company. The latest, of course, being the hack of Experian. And while a large attack like that, or the one on Sony or Target, to add a couple more, have been newsmakers, corporations are being cyber attacked to a lesser or greater extent all the time. So we all have to take cyber security seriously, but what does that really mean? I mean, maybe especially if you don't have your own IT department. So everybody says, oh, you got to take cybersecurity seriously. You're our little 9-person company here. So yeah, okay, so what does that mean?
You just install a new firewall for us.
Yeah. I have no idea what it does, but it's a nice little box with lots of
lights,
lots of lights and stuff on it. I don't know. Must do something. All right. Well, here to discuss cybersecurity a bit more knowledgeably with us today is Martin Voelk. Martin Voelk is the senior security analyst for Tufsud America. Thanks, Martin. Thanks for joining us.
Hello. Good morning. Thanks for having me on the show, Dirk and Mike.
Hey, no problem. Okay, so first of all, how big a problem is corporate cybersecurity today? I mean, do you have some sort of data that might quantify for us a little bit?
Absolutely. I mean, as you said in the intro, it's becoming a more and more massive issue over the years. We like to refer to the Symantec threat report, which is a threat report around cybersecurity, which is published once a year by Symantec. And there are some interesting figures in there, like when we, for example, talk about ransomware. So in 2015, we had like 350,000 detected ransomware outbreaks. And in 2016, that figure went up to almost 500,000. Oh, wow. So you can see the increase in there.
So what's going on? I mean, are companies just ignorant of the problem? I mean, ignorant cybersecurity? Are they too lazy to do anything about it, or don't have the skills to address the problem?
It's a bit of everything, really. I mean, there's certainly a lot more awareness these days than we had 10 years ago. But the mindset of a lot of companies and a lot of businesses these days is still around, why should I be hacked? Like, why me? Like, we are so small, we are a small law firm, we are a small hospital. Why would anyone have any interest to attack us? And that's really a big problem, because in the heads of people, they still think, oh, well, only a Goldman Sachs or only a Citigroup or only a large corporation will be attacked. But that's so not true, because we have hackers out there and script kiddies and whatnot, and they're randomly targeting. And, often they're going for the lowest hanging fruit. And a lot of hackers don't do it necessarily for financial gain. It's just, to prove a point or to impress their friends. And, there are tools out there which randomly scan for vulnerabilities, and then you may be hit, or the small car shop around the corner with a website may be hit. It's not necessarily always the big corporations. And then secondly, the technology has been moving so fast over the last decade. If you look at all the technologies we have in use, wireless, cloud services, IT is part and parcel of today's life. And the security aspect has been neglected to a very, very large extent. Like, 10 years ago, an IT administrator could look after security on the side of it. But these days, you really need a full-time security or many full-time security analysts or experts to protect you appropriately. And it's a tricky decision for small businesses, because at the end of the day, you may not have the budgets available to hire a full-time person, but this is where services company really come in, and they can help small customers and large customers.
Now, Martin, you recommend implementing an information security management system. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about what that is. Is that a software? Is that a service? What exactly is that?
Okay, so an informational management system is not necessarily just one box or one piece of software or hardware. Security should be seen as a cycle. So when we talk about information security management, it's typically analyzing the critical assets the customer has to protect. So in other words, if you are, like an online retailer, what are the most critical assets you want to protect? Well, it's credit card information from your customer for a start, right? So when we talk about informational security management, we talk more about services, like analyzing the network, doing a gap analysis, doing penetration testing to see where the current state of security is and where they need to get to in order to be more secure.
Now, is this, okay, so suppose you're a small company, a really small company, and like us, and part of what you do is you do sell stuff online. We have a branch that sells training software, for instance. And so we do take credit card information. So that might be valuable, but we're still a small company. So this protection that you're talking about, is this something that even a small company can even afford to do?
Absolutely. That's possible. For example, when you're talking about credit card transactions, like you can always outsource your transaction processing to PCI certified merchants, such as Google Pay, PayPal, and the likes. So that pushes the responsibility for cardholder data over to the merchant rather than doing it yourself. The drawback here at this situation is that you will have to pay them a fee per transaction, right? So whereas if you do it in-house, you can keep all the money within your business. But there are solutions for small companies, certainly.
Okay, and it sounds like you're saying that one of the first steps is you need to do maybe some sort, you need to have some sort of technical person do a gap analysis, essentially, right?
Absolutely. So it's looking at the infrastructure, not only at the technical pieces. This is often overlooked. You guys mentioned firewall earlier in the intro. A firewall is an integral point to security, but it's not everything. Like if you look what's happening these days, a lot of attacks are started by social engineering. So the classic spear phishing emails or putting USB sticks out with malicious software on it and just waiting for people to plug them in. So there's the human aspect, there's the technical aspect, and there's also the policy and framework aspect. Like creating acceptable use policies for employees, for example, so that they know how to browse the web safely and what to do and what not to do.
Okay. It's mentioned. It's funny you mentioned social engineering. We just fell for one of those.
Hell yeah!
Hey, here's your invoice from somebody that we knew, but it was a spam email. They'd spoofed somebody else's email and sent us something that would have been legit if it had actually come from them, but it wasn't. It was actually a little virus.
The SIG block? It
was a stupid little virus. It was no big deal, but it's funny how easily it is. If somebody has somebody else's name and you know them, you can get sucked right into that stuff.
Yep.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, if you're interested in learning more about this topic, we, Quality Digest and TÜV Süd, are joining forces to present a webinar called Developing a Cybersecurity Strategy. The webinar happens next week on Tuesday, October 3rd at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. And Martin Voelk, who you see is very knowledgeable and who just spoke to us, he will be our presenter and I'll be the host. So keep an eye on your email inbox for an invitation and register for the event if you haven't already. It's free, of course. So keep your eye open on that. And actually, I believe there's also a link underneath the player page here that you can click. That'll take you out to the registration page. So Martin Voelk, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay, see you next week.
We'll see you next week. Right. Thanks, Martin. Good.